Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Architecture of Health. I'm Deb Voisin, and this week I have Monica Heine, who is an author of the book Simply Done. Welcome to our show, Monica.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here at your show there.
Yes, guys, the reason I wanted her to come is not only is her book very practical and actionable about habits, and we all know at the root, at the foundation of the architecture of health are those little habits where if the foundation gets shaky, you do one thing every day that's making the foundation weaker, that really habit change is at the center of building the life that you want, right? But second, though, is Monica and I knew each other from a business networking group years ago, and I could not believe how much this woman could get done. She was always in perfect health. Her posture was always perfect. She was working a full-time job. She had kids at home and had time to do even like charity work on the side. So her book, it has some suggestions about how has done it all and gets so much done, and it's called Simply Done. So Monica, why don't you share with the audience what got you so excited about Simply Done, embrace new habits and streamline the tasks of daily life to create more time for everything you love? Like, what hit you that it was time to spend all the energy it takes to write a book?
That's a great question. Well, what really inspired me with my friends. It's so funny how, you're living your life and you have all these things and in your mind, you think everybody's got it until you start talking to people and you can see that no, they don't. And so talking to friends, they would come and ask, how do your house is always clean, your kids are always put together, you have time to go out for coffee and do charity work, you have a job, you run a home business. What's your magic? So I never thought I had a magic. I don't think I have a magic. Far from that. But what I found is that the way I was brought up in Brazil with eight siblings, me being number eight, my mom's system, how she maximized her time, how she had systems. And in retrospect, how I did that to my children just in my DNA, just by doing it, I never really gave too much thought to it. But in fact, I realized that I had something that I could share with other people to help them be less stressful, be more joyful, find joy in the little things and everyday life, be more organized, and just enjoy being. And so, what really pushed me, well, my friends, especially one friend of mine, always said, "You've got to share this with people." And I said, "I don't know how to write a book." And I didn't. So I just started putting these ideas together. My son is an English major and a creative writer. So he did the bulk of the writing with me, the bulk of the editing, and then I hired an editor and I put it together. And it was a joy. It was such a enjoyable journey, especially because I had this connection with my son, right? That's his passion, is writing also. And he knows me. And then he came with the idea, said, Mom, what if I give my own 2 cents in this thing? So that's we came out with son's point of view. Because he wanted other people to see how he implemented that in his life and how that benefited him. So here you go. Now you got Simply Done out there.
Well, that highlights on a couple of things. One is, I think in modern uh, American culture, where there are one, maybe two children, it's easy to not delegate well. It's easy that this would be me, uh, trying to do everything for everyone instead of empowering them with that. And honestly, I remember seeing French relatives when they would have four kids, that the parents, with a certain amount of a certain size of family, it becomes more and more obvious that delegation and personal responsibility has to be at the center of the way the family runs, or it's all going to go crazy. That older point of view, whether it's Europe, Brazil, farm families where the families were larger and everybody had to
I
help.
think that responsibility is part of growing your character. Obviously, I'm not going to tell my 5-year-old to paint the house, right? I mean, you start with little things, and that creates confidence. That creates a sense of, I can do this. I can do this small task. And also, I think it shows your children that things don't magically happen. You don't have a fairy that's going to do the laundry for you. So it takes effort. It takes time, effort, concentration, perseverance to get things done in a way that is doable and that is practical and efficient. So when you say it doesn't matter if you have one child or two children, or it doesn't matter the size, what you're doing is that you're instilling in your child the sense of responsibility and appreciation of keeping a house. And in return, they are going to do that to them with themselves and with their offspring. That's my hope. So moms want to do everything, right? It's easier. I don't you think I know that? That it's much easier to go and do it. But I said, no way, Jose. I'm not falling for that trap.
Well, I also noticed that
So,
the people who had moms that worked, the moms had to be a little better at delegating. I had the luxury of a mom who was a stay-at-home mom, but then I got to be honest, I didn't learn to do hardly anything to help because we didn't have that time pressure kind of requiring the collaboration of the whole family. So
mhm.
what would you say? And I've already thrown out a few possibilities for what can be getting in our way of these some of these practices and some of these philosophies that you see in the book. What are some of the patterns that you saw in your friends and people like me that that prevent them from thinking in this new clear, practical, getting things done way?
Oh, I think the first thing is the concept of time. That's my first chapter. My father always said my father always says, time waits for no one, right? If you want something done, just do it. I remember saying that my father said, have you thought about being a doctor? And I said, really, Dad? That's 7 years of schooling, for graduate school. And he's like, well, do you think 7 years is going to wait for you if you don't do it? I mean, the years are going to pass anyway. If you want to do it, not that he said I had to do it, but his example was that's not the way to look at things, right? So the first thing is time. Time is a concept in our minds. We all have 24 hours, and what are you going to do with that? One thing that I'm going to be honest with you, annoys me is when I ask somebody, how are you doing? And the first thing that comes out is, I'm so busy. Okay, I didn't ask. I asked how are you doing? So that's just in your head, and that already raises your blood pressure. So I think that when it's in here, you have to just change your mindset, right? When I get up, I say, I have time to do whatever I'm going to do today. And if it doesn't get done, the sun will still shine, right? That's beyond me. So just putting yourself the best you can out there without being so attached to the outcome and so attached to the pressure of time, and taking that time to um, make a schedule, to find a system that works. And also, another thing that I like to point out is that projects can be overwhelming. However, when you take a step back and you cut them into small pieces, they're doable, they get done, right? It's so amazing how I have so many patients that have retired, and they come to me and say, Monica, it seems like I have a lot less time now that I'm retired. I used to get a lot more done when I was working. My house was cleaned. I had time to cook. I did all these things. I accomplished all these things, and now I don't work. I don't spend 10 hours a day at work. And I feel like I don't have time. So it's just an example for you to see that time is a concept. So the first thing to get over it is, what are you going to do with your time? And make sure that you don't have this mentality that I'm always busy. Everything's so busy. Everything's so hard, because you're already setting yourself up for failure, right? For being stressed out. And the world is still going around. We're just a little speck in the universe. We're not that important.
I love I
Get over
love
yourself.
Yeah, get over ourselves. I love this way of thinking on so many levels. One that strikes me was I underlined in your book, time is the only non-renewable resource. So and it's there's a paradox here where if you act desperate, like it's not renewable, I'm desperate, it actually stops you from doing the thoughtful, simple, like that 1 minute that you could have done that moves you towards that goal. You're too rushed and stressed to do just that one little thing in a thoughtful way that is it is going to carry you forward. I noticed when I started just moving the dry dishes, or most people have a dishwasher, I don't here in this apartment, but I just started moving the dry dishes when I would walk past the sink. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to put away 1 minute, 1 minute here, 1 minute there. And then by the end of the day, those 1 minutes had stacked up. And I know you refer to that too as well, of not letting things pile up to be a big thing where you keep moving forward and breaking them apart. The other thing that I love that you're saying is, um, if there's a big thing that you really want to do and you procrastinate starting it, it's time is still marching on. You're the idea that you're
Mhm.
able to still carry forward without this pinched, stressed idea that drains us of our time. Wow. And
Right.
what do you think it is about the retired people feeling like they have less time? Is it that it's unstructured, so they're spending it on in ways and screens and things that they aren't conscious of?
Yeah, I haven't figured that one out yet, but I think that it is because even if you don't like your job, it is a structure, right? They were attached, somebody told them what to do. Now, there's nobody telling them what to do. So they're like, woohoo, I can do whatever I want. However, nothing gets done because I can get up anytime I want. And some people are happy that way. I'm not taking that away. Some people are looking forward to not to just do nothing or whatever. But if you're complaining that you don't get things done, then there's a problem there, right? Then there's something missing. So it is that challenge of structuring yourself. And it's not like I'm doing things all the time. I also have free time to do things. You gotta, life happens. However, I think having sort of a structure, it really helps. It really gives you peace of mind, you know.
And I noticed, so the first chapter of your book is about time being a non-renewable resource. And so that's the
Hmm.
first thing you said gets in people's way, is they have this, they aren't paying attention to their time, or they have a stressed idea about time or a procrastination idea about time. So then if we the second, what's the second most like habitual pattern you saw in people? Because I know what the next chapter is, the book of the I've got the list of the chapters of the book here. What do you see as the next big chunk that uh is causing resistance in people in moving forward and being more organized and uh, getting things done?
Hmm. I think that sometimes we put too much on our plates. I had to learn how to say no because I am a people pleaser. And so I got to a point where my mom got to me and said, "Love, listen to me. I know so a lot of people are not Christians, but I'm just gonna say exactly what she says. Jesus Christ was the Son of God and he didn't please everybody, okay? It's not gonna happen. You show up your best, and that some people are gonna like and some people are not gonna like. So that took some pressure off of saying no. Yeah, I love to help you this, but I can't. So sometimes we stretch ourselves too thin. That's when the delegation helps. Because if you commit yourself to do everybody's laundry, to clean everybody's bathroom, and change their sheets, and all of a sudden you are like crawling up the walls because you feel that you're not measuring up to the standards that you created, right? You create that standard. Now you are super stressful. So know your limits, right? There's only so much I can do. And show up your best on those things that you can do. So you have a fulfilling feeling that is like, oh, yeah, even in small things. I'm not talking about, ending world hunger here. I'm talking about just the daily life stuff. because I think that's what the joy is in the small stuff, right? In the small accomplishments. And so, yeah.
I remember you have some part of your book with time blocking. And I think this is related because let's say we are that person who had that highly structured schedule of a full-time job. Someone else already said no. Someone else already said, this is the time that's blocked off on your calendar to get this done. So one, it sounds like one of the
Mhm.
tools, especially for someone who is working on more, getting over people pleasing. Hello. Hello. That's me too. That's me too. Uh, Putting, they also say it about money, pay yourself first, you know, delegate to, save away some of that time for those things that you really do need to get done and block out parts of your calendar so that they happen. Besides all the, putting the smaller pieces into place along the way. So that makes a lot of sense. Saying no, which
Mhm.
means saying yes to something else and guarding time for something
Mhm.
else.
Correct. Because you can't give what you don't have, right? If you're empty, not only you suffer, but the people around you suffer because you have to replenish yourself with your own love, with your own time and time to be aware, time to meditate, so you can give that. So you're doing the world a favor, yourself and the people around you actually a favor, and not to feel guilty about it because everybody's going to benefit, right? At the end of the day.
And
So,
you've mentioned delegation, and it's funny. I just opened the book to another section. It says how to delegate tasks. I think sometimes I don't delegate because I feel like, oh, I don't have much time. I'll just do it myself, and then I lose the long term uh the
benefit.
compounding interest of getting that
Mm,
help over and over. And I think part of it too is I don't know, I think I don't have much skill or practice in delegating really well. It's funny, I use Chat GPT now, and I'll notice just asking for the wrong thing, just a little funny, what crazy results come back. I'm like, oh, I wasn't really good at asking for exactly what I wanted. So is there anything you want to
mhm.
share about delegation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that delegation with love and the way you can say, kid, your room is a pigsty. Go clean your room is one thing. And you say, Lovey, let me help you figure it out how to make more space here for you to think clearly, right? That's a completely different approach. Putting the benefits on them. You're delegating at the same time, they are seeing the benefit. They are gonna have a clear room for them to. I don't live in that room, they do. So at the end of the day, it benefits them. So when you delegate with a mind that is for them, not for you, right? And knowing how to word that is saying, instead of saying, you forgot to do this, it says, remember mama asked you to, remember to. So words have power. So the way you ask somebody something. And another thing that I find that I think people don't like to delegate because you want it your way, right? You want it your way. And only your way is your way. Perfection is the enemy of peace. I don't know how to put that. And so it doesn't have to be perfect in your standards because perfection it's in the eyes of the beholder. So if my kids didn't fold their clothes the way I would have folded, I would say, "Yeah, hey baby, that's a great job." And it turned out that they folded way better than I do. I know. I had my son fold my clothes the other day because, circumstances, and I'm like, dang, this looks good, you know. So so that's the thing, that delegation with purpose, delegation with the mindset that is helping them, not only you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I haven't my son is older, he's almost grown, and now I'm finally learning exactly what you're saying. Like I'm like, hey, when you're a roommate, I want you to be a really good roommate to your other people. I don't want you to be like me that left the house and I didn't have basic skills. I wasn't very good at doing dishes. I wasn't that, considerate of my roommates because I didn't know how to do things. So now we both look at it as like, oh, this is, check, got this skill. Like, check, we're getting these skills and then things are working better. And to your point, there was something I asked about the other day, and I had to just be like, "Yay, you did that!" And what came back was not the thing. I think I sent him grocery shopping, and something came back like, "Wow, I've never never seen that brand of that, or I've never seen that
Uh,
size of
mhm.
that thing." I didn't say, but I
No,
had to
no.
be like, "Yay!" And now as a
Yay.
yay, I had to say, "Yay, you helped." Good job. And
Mhm.
because I have to say is it's so easy to be critical and nitpick
Mhm.
and tear other people down, and then they get afraid to try,
Mhm.
because who wants to do
Exactly. They
anything?
get afraid to try. They get afraid to be wrong. And at the end of the day, if it wasn't the brand that you look, is that really a big deal? You know what I mean? In the great scheme of things, you have to take a look at the big picture, right? If you ask them to put their shoes together and then their shoes were, not this way, but this way, nobody cares. Who is gonna who's gonna check?
And we had a vegetable cutting thing too, and I realized it's also about the scale of delegation. Like if it's a recipe or something where it really matters, if
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
the
That's different.
potatoes are too big and they're going to
It's
take
not
all
gonna
day to
cook.
cook, it's not going to work.
Uh-huh.
And so I realized, oh, my delegation skills, like I can be more precise, and then I can just help on top of the initial help without. Okay, and I got to say, the kind of delegation that really is a bummer is, someone asked you to do something, whether it's at work or it's at home. Someone asks you to do something, you do it, and then they basically like erase your effort. Like, I remember an
Mm,
adult doing that to me. Like, I did all this gardening, I was doing all this, and they basically just went and erased all my effort. And I'm like,
mm. I know. That is
yeah.
very disheartening. So in my book, I put down the steps of delegation. Um, that's how I taught my kids, and that's how my mom taught us. First we watch, first they watch me, then they help me, then they do on their own, I watch them, then they do on their own. And it's very important to reward them with words and hugs right away. So don't wait, if you ask them to make the bed every day and you come in, the bed is made, it's like, wow, your room looks so good. You did such a great job making that bed. I'm so proud of you. Boom, right there. You know what I mean? Just praise them. Praise. And there's a difference between praising and spoiling. Um, we didn't grow up being spoiled. There was no such thing. They say, "Oh, you're the youngest, you're the baby, you're spoiled." Not really, no. So, but so praising is really important, just like you said, right? Somebody came and erased your job, whatever you did, and it's like, really, dude? I mean, no, it's not cool. You know what I mean? And for a child that is still forming that sense of self and accomplishment, that really counts. The small things, it really counts. So we have to be mindful of what we say and how we react, to it and go, I wouldn't have done it that way. It's like, oh, honey, if let's cut these potatoes like this, then you do it. Says, you know why we're doing this? Because the size cooks much faster and we're gonna eat much quicker. Because my older son, he had a question for everything I had to explain. Once I explained it to him, if it was true or not, he was good. Why you want me to do this? Why does it have to be this way? And then you give him an explanation because they are craving that explanation. And then you say, because A, B, and C. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? Or if it's so anyway.
Well, I think this
Go
also
ahead.
applies to coaching. Like I'm a movement longevity coach, and I think those delegation steps are the same as any kind of leadership. where you want to recruit people to help themselves. They're really helping everyone when they help themselves. And I love that you have those steps where they watch and then they help, and then you watch, and then they're on their own. And like that whole
Mhm.
potato thing wouldn't have existed if I first had him watch the first time, right? But and
It's
I
so
th-
simple.
and that goes back to, though, that time that, like, oh, I don't have time, I just got to get it done, where we lose all those chances to share
Mhm.
and so tell me a little bit about the way you and your son worked on this together.
Oh, it was really funny because, me not being English not being my first language, I remember we were going because I wrote a bunch of stuff, and what he did is that he is an architect type of writer. I don't know if you know the difference between architect and a gardener. A gardener is a writer that keeps writing without knowing when the next shot's gonna come. And the architect puts the skeleton together and then puts the meat, that's Logan. He's more of I think people have both in some kind of way, but he's more of an architect. My husband's German. He's German. So anyway, very methodic. Yeah. So anyway, so I had all these chapters all over the place, and he helped me put it together in an organized way. And we had our meeting we picked a day of the week that worked for the both of us, again, structure. And we only worked for an hour because that was all my brain could take and his brain could take. But it was really fun because I would write something and he says, Mom, I think you're trying to say this and this and that. That was the magic of it because he knows me. He knows exactly what I am trying to say. If it was some stranger, they wouldn't have known me. So by the time I took this book to a final editor, this had been thought through. You know what I mean? And it was really fun because there was a part that I wanted to write wiping the counters, and I put whipping. And he's like, Mom, you're gonna just whip that counter into shape because I didn't use AI. So the word wipe and whip, those are two real words. So the it didn't catch. And so things like that would happen. It would just crack up. And then he would come, Mom, remember when you taught me this? I remember what you said. You should put that on the book. So it was a really fun, interesting journey doing that with him.
That
Yeah.
sounds like, again, the type of leadership, the collaborative leadership that you're helping your audience that is reading the book get. I'm looking here, simply smart scheduling. Yes, I think that's part of the time blocking.
Yeah, the smart scheduling because everybody has a different schedule, right? Even day to day can be different. So allocating time in your schedule to get things done, it's very important, I find, and very useful. So that's what that chapter is about. I wanted to say something else. So my younger son is a musician. His profession is music industry. He writes music, he sings, he teaches. He's in a band. He plays various instruments. I mean, the kid is all about music. So we are doing the recording of the book together because he has all the equipment, and so it might come out next year because he's so busy he doesn't have time to finish up now. So I'm going to read the book. Logan is going to read all the son's point of view because that was his part, that was his stuff, his idea. And my son Kieran, who's doing the recording, he's going to do the like chapter one. So we're gonna have different voices, all three of us. So I think it's gonna come out really nice. I was a little concerned about my accent when I was reading the book, but it comes with the package.
I think you
So I'm
speak
really excited about
beautifully. I've
that.
I've never thought of you as having an accent. I mean, I know you.
Oh,
I know you're from Brazil. I remember kind of asking, like, "Oh, you move really well. You're probably not from the United States," but it wasn't because of the way you
that's
speak.
funny.
Now,
That's
what
hilarious.
I'm hearing again is you've figured out how to build a team. you built a team in your family, and everyone has their different strengths, and you're even coming together in this project in a way. So all of these are leadership skills for any group.
Yeah, I think so. In fact, my two kids are very leadership leadership people. I don't know how to put that. They have this thing of they know how to delegate. When Logan was at Cabrillo, he put the the paper together again, the Cabrillo paper. His the Department of English professor called on him and said, Logan, would you like to revive? Because after COVID, it was dead. So he put it all together. He found the content, the journalists, and he put it all together. So it's just like that's how they operate, you know. And so,
And it's funny you said you didn't use AI, and I'm laughing over here because this book is so cute and it's so clean and the layout is so lovely, and I just immediately was like, oh, maybe if I used AI, I could do something really great like this. So
right, yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
is NI, natural intelligence.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
I decided I chose not to use AI.
I love it. I respect you even more for that. So
Well, yeah, you might find some English errors, but some grammar errors.
is that the only way we're going to be able to tell who whether something's handmade by a human being?
Correct,
I don't
correct.
know. So
Yeah.
any other big nuggets or uh practical tips? I mean, because your book covers the gym, it covers house cleaning, it covers cooking, it covers all sorts of things, and we don't
Hmm.
need to get into every area.
Of
But
course not.
are there and we want you to go to Amazon, get your cute copy. This would be a cute gift.
Uh,
Anything else you want the audience to take away as another, just a practical actionable thing that starting this very minute that could
okay.
change the way they think about well, okay, hold on. One thing you do say in the book, because it's about habit change, is it things can be simple but not easy. I've used that before on some of my other podcasts, like learning how to move in the way that our ancestors did and babies do. It's simple, but it's really not easy because it's different than everybody around you. Is one of the reasons.
Correct.
Is there anything you want to say about the distinction, what you've observed about things that are simple but not easy?
Okay. Well, a chapter that I enjoyed writing all the chapters, but the one that really flowed out of me was about self-care. I think is I'm going to talk quickly about meditation. Um, I grew up in a very spiritual family, so meditation was something that we did. um, and but it was more like in a prayer form. Okay, we prayed together as a family, and all that stuff. But sometimes I think people think it's a waste of time to sit quietly, and their minds are running so fast that they feel that they could be doing something else. And I've been there. I can relate to that. However, if you're gonna work on one thing, is just start with 2 minutes, just two. Don't go any further than two. You can put a timer, and you can just sit in a place. It could be your car. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be fancy. Don't make this hard. But just to close your eyes and focus on your breathing. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I'm not asking you to go climb Kilimanjaro or something like that, or go to India to find enlightenment. All I'm saying is that just give your brain and your nervous system a break. Not sleeping, consciously meditating. And you don't have to be religious, you don't have to follow Christianity or anything. It's just a human being necessity. And so I think that if you start, I mean, I do way more than that. However, it's not about me, it's about creating that habit. And it's going to feel strange, it's going to feel funny. And your mind is going to go, 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 here and there. And you go, let's focus back again. Let's take the other deep breath and let that go. Let that thought go. Yeah, I'm sure your mind, wants to warn you about that bear that's coming, but to get you. But I'm okay now. I can do this. Okay. So that form of being, and I think that it's really beneficial to you. And from that everything else flows. You know what I mean? When you're more centered, when you're more in it on the now. Of course, I think of the future. I think, what I'm going to do when I retire. That's normal. However, you got to find time for the now because you miss out. I look at my boys, the adults, they're living their lives. It's like, I'm so glad that I was so much part of their lives. You know what I mean? Even though I was working and I never worked full time. So I always had time for them. I just made it work. And things like that, the little things, just focus on the little things. Yeah.
I love that because it's similar in the habit change of healthy movement is doing something in a relaxed and positive new way just for a minute here and there interrupts your old pattern. So that's one of the only way you can change an old pattern is you need to make space for the new thing. And the one thing about meditation I never understood is it seemed like, oh, I'm supposed to experience something in this moment. Like I'm supposed to notice something happening when you meditate. No, it's actually just the act of making space.
Yeah.
And if you think of a house that's full of furniture, there's no space to move around. There's nothing can change. Uh, so the first step also in getting rid of pain in the body, we're making space where there was a compression. So you add that little whisper, that little breath of space, then that's the place from which change can occur. And oh, I was at a church service the other day, and the pastor said, hey, if every member of this congregation prayed before every meal, that's X people, X meals. And like they counted it up for the number in 1 year. He was like, that would be like 350,000 prayers that went out to Santa Cruz. And so the scale of those small things building up over time.
Right, the numbers. Hmm. Definitely. Definitely. There's not one meal that I don't think about. I'm so fortunate. So fortunate that I'm hungry and I'm home, there's something to eat. I don't know what it is, but it'll be something.
Right, gratitude and
Gratitude. Right.
noticing and allowing. Yeah, wow. So uh
Yeah. I
I
have a
think,
whole chapter on that.
oh, okay, I'm sure you do. I mean, I can't imagine what's not covered. This is a very holistic book, very simple, guys. It's got a lot what I liked about it was it's spacious. It doesn't feel like you're sitting down to read something heavy where you gotta
Mm,
that it's scannable. You can look
it's
at the bullet
scannable. Absolutely.
points. Yeah, that and
And
I worked in information design at tech companies for 30 years, and when things are too dense and heavy and you can't scan it, people can't pick up the information quickly. Is there anything you wanted to
They
say
can't
about that?
process it. So that was the point of the book. I wanted to make it simple, simply done, simple to follow, and also not every chapter is going to pertain to everybody, right? I have a whole chapter on closet. Maybe your closet's fine. You got what you need. You manage your closet just fine, but your garage is a monster waiting to jump at you, and you don't want to even look at it. So you're gonna go to the garage organizing chapter, right? That's what you need. And so it is easier to read the whole book because there might be something hiding there that you didn't think about, right? Even though you think you have it all together. So, um, but there are chapters that you might go, oh my goodness, I really need help with this. I gotta go straight to this chapter, right? And then later on you can browse through the other chapters. That's why I wanted to make it very compartmental. Does that make sense? Is that okay?
Absolutely. Very
Yeah.
modular. Very modular. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
So yeah, and I also wanted to put the takeaways. It's funny because when I first wrote the book, I wanted to put the takeaways in the beginning of the chapter because I said, Logan, I want to takeaways in the beginning of the chapter because then the person can see what they're looking at. And then we thought later that would be best to do at the end, So either way, I wanted to just to put the takeaways um, there. There is a point that I talk about is called the gap. The another nugget. A lot of people, when you're doing something, you're always looking forward and you forget to look back and say, "Oh, I already accomplished this much." And that fuels your desire to keep going because whatever that much is, it doesn't matter. There's no judgment there. You know what I mean? But just take a moment and look back. I've built a family. I've been a career. I've built whatever. I made this beautiful meal. Whatever that is, there's that gap that we miss. And so I think that's very important.
That is a very important point. That's one thing in the movement coaching that I do. I'll have in my head that I'm running like the world's fastest sprinter. I'll have in my head, and I'm like, I've got so many years and years before I'll ever be as good as I want to be in my head. And so I'll look at myself like I've made no progress, but that's why I keep a record. I keep filming myself running and now I pull up, okay, I want to see a clip of myself sprinting 2.5 years ago when I started tracking this. And then it's obvious that I can measure,
That's the improvement.
oh, obvious. And that helps other people uh, remind themselves that if you just stay consistent and steady and attentive and curious, but the gap will always be there where you're like, you imagine, some gigantic thing, you're looking over at Mount Kilimanjaro like you want to climb to the top. There's always going to be that gap in front of you. So you've got to look back. Yeah, great point. Wow. Anything else you want to close with?
What I want to close with is consistency and perseverance is my last chapter or close to the last chapter. If you fall away from, you started something and fall away, even if it's for a week or 2 weeks, don't beat yourself up. Just get back on the horse and start galloping again. You know what I mean? Because beating yourself up is not going to do any good to anybody. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help the situation. We all have our moments. We're only human. So pat yourself on the back and say, okay, I got this much accomplished. Life happened. I let that go, but now I'm ready to get back on a horse again. And just keep persisting. Consistency and persistence is what's going to give you the results that you like, that you want. Also, I want to offer my services. I love to come in and talk to your book club. If you have a book club, if you want to read my book, um, I have been invited to talk to real estate people. It's so funny, the people who are a lot of elderly people. I have this guy who deals with a lot of elderly people selling their homes, and they have so much stuff they don't even know what to do with it. So helping them how to delegate, how to find people to help them, or what to do with that stuff. Each person has a different scenario. Um, I also can come and talk to mothers, and this is all free. I'm not charging anything. It's just mothers with small children, sometimes they get really overwhelmed, and it's not like I'm going to solve all their problems, but I can give them a few tips and they can ask questions that I didn't even think about. So I want to offer my services if we can do it on Zoom, I guess, or we can, do it live if it's in the Santa Cruz County. Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there.
Oh, that sounds great. I know a couple of moms up in Scotts Valley that you should talk to. Okay, cool. Well, Monica, you are so accomplished and professional, and you have a gift of clean and clarity. And wow, what a great job. This is a great book, Simply Done. It's on Amazon and other places. I'll put the link below. Her website is monicaheine.com. Very talented. You're very generous. You're very talented and generous. So thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. Oh, the book is also at Bookshop Santa Cruz.
Oh, Bookshop Santa Cruz. Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.